The AWARE project's aim is to balance the public conversation about psychedelics, spread accurate information, and give a new face to psychedelia. We feel that this change will occur through connection and relationship, one individual at a time. We are calling on everyone whose lives have been improved through the mindful use of psychedelics to educate themselves and become ambassadors for the psychedelic experience. Show those around you that people who use psychedelics mindfully across all social, racial, economic, and political boundaries.
Today, I'm very honored to have Dr. Joe Tafur here. He is a medical doctor, and he's done quite a bit of work with ayahuasca in the jungle, the Peruvian jungle, and Iquitos mostly. And he just launched is this your first book, Joe? Yes. His very first book. It's called The Fellowship of the River. I've just started reading it, but so far it's really awesome. It's a page turner, and I really encourage you guys to support Joe and purchase one of his books today. It's a steal. He's selling them for, what, $14? That is a pretty darn good deal for a book. The art is beautiful on it. I feel like $14 for that beautiful art alone is worth it. So please consider purchasing one of his books today, and he will sign it for you. And so he's going to come up and chat a little bit about, how he got here, his journey with the plant medicines, and his inspiration for writing this book. So without further ado, I welcome Joe Tafur.
Turn the thing down. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Jake, and everybody at the AWARE project. Thanks for having me here. Thanks for coming out. It's nice to see you guys. So this is the book, The Fellowship of the River. It's called The Fellowship of the River, a medical doctor's exploration into traditional Amazonian plant medicine. And so I've been a little worn out. I've been tired. I've been doing this like for a month now. And like every time, I try to do something a little different, a little more like, I went to UCSD for medical school. I used to live here in San Diego. And so that was a big time in my life. The opener to that chapter called, The Wounded Healer. So I was somebody that was interested in alternative medicine, interested in different things. I went to college at UCLA. I took some time off. I grew up in Arizona. And I took 3 years off college, to try to figure out what I wanted to do and just do different things. And I didn't want to. My dad is a doctor. He's a psychiatrist. He passed away. But, I was interested in that. I had a very spiritual family, Catholic family from Colombia, South America, but kind of more mystically oriented, more open-minded, not like kind of the Christianity that some people are used to here. A lot different attitude towards spirituality, towards spirit and spirits. So that was me, and I was taking this time off, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I spent a little time working I got a job. I thought I was going to be a field biologist. I was like, I don't want to be a doctor, because the doctor world at UCLA, the pre-med culture was very cutthroat, competitive. It wasn't about healing so much, the way I thought. I guess that's what I was interested in, was healing work, and it was just a different kind of scene. And so at some point I was just like, I'm getting off this train. I'm pre-med, but I don't know about this. So I took the MCAT and the entrance exam for medical school, and I just kind of, I did all right on it. So I just left it there. In 3 years, I got a job on a boat, studied whales, got on the boat here in San Diego to go for a month and cruise the ocean and see all the blue whales and killer whales and fin whales. Fin whale is the second biggest whale that you never hear about. It's humongous. I saw like 40 of them together feeding. And unfortunately, that was like a extremely lonely lifestyle. The field biologist lifestyle is not very social. They're loners, big time. Nobody wants to talk or chat on the boat. Hey, not interested. And so I got very sick. It was miserable at times, but also gorgeous and beautiful. And I got back off the boat here in San Diego, and I was like, I eliminated a career option. I'm not going to do that. And then I looked at the Career Center and I ended up getting a job at an AIDS project in LA. It's called Bienestar Latino AIDS Project. They needed Spanish-speaking people to help with the new AIDS drugs. The new AIDS drugs had just come out at the cocktail. And, you know, people weren't so complicated, people weren't taking it right, especially Latino people were not following directions. And it was saving people's lives. You know, it's complicated, there's a lot of side effects, but people were being brought back from death. And so then I was involved in that and working that. I worked there for about 9 months. And all my clients had AIDS. You know, like just to qualify to work with my service that I offered, which was just to be a treatment advocate, to help them, to explain to them about their treatment. They can talk to their doctor and go to the hospital and see what's going on. Everybody had AIDS, you know, they had advanced illness. And I was around very sick people. And I started and then I got exposed to all this alternative medicine because it was AIDS and it was Los Angeles. And so they offered acupuncture for free for people. And they offered massage and energy healing and all these different things. You know, I started getting exposed. I hear about it, but then I got to get it, like acupuncture, you know, and they realized, like, whoa, I had such a response to the acupuncture actually. I went for a jog later that day and I never felt so good, you know. I was like, wow, this is really something. Maybe I'll go into Chinese medicine, you know, maybe that's what I should do. And so that was kind of going on, and meanwhile I was getting exposed to other spiritual things. I was always interested in spirituality, so I was checking out, my friend was a Zen Buddhist, and my other friend was Santeria, like Afro-Cuban Santeria, and I was getting exposed to these different cultures. And then I had a girlfriend that, like a breakup relationship, and she moved to San Diego, so I was like, okay, I'm going to move, you know, this is it, like, I'm going to marry her, I'm moving to San Diego. Go move in with her, and it doesn't work out. So now I'm in San Diego, and I don't know what's going on, and I live here. And I was out for a jog one day, like we had been fighting, and I went to, I jogged by Pecan, you know, Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. I was like, wow, okay, I had acupuncture, I really like that, so I did an intro course at Pecan. And I was very impressed and learning about the integration of medicine, and they taught me, it was Alex Tiberi, you know, his course. And it was about, you know, you can't just integrate techniques. You can't just integrate like, oh, acupuncture, put the needles here, now teach the doctor how to put the needles there, and then now we got acupuncture. It's like, no, you actually have to integrate the philosophy. You have to respect the philosophy of the medicine, because if you don't, you will not understand the full range of that medical practice. You know, and that's a fact in Western medicine and allopathic medicine, and in Chinese medicine, and in traditional Amazonian plant medicine. It's not enough. Maybe you can do a lot, just drinking ayahuasca, you don't have to do any ceremony, you don't have to do singing and shamanism and stuff like that. But you can't say that you know what's possible with ayahuasca without exposing yourself to that. And you can't say you know what's possible with Chinese medicine without exposing yourself to the tradition. And that was a point that he made there that I thought was very interesting, and it had a big influence on me. And then my dad's like, Joe, you know, go to medical school. You know, like you have a chance to go to medical school. You could do this. You could help change things, but it's better to change things from within. Like you got a chance to change it from within. And so that was an opportunity, and so I applied to medical school. And my MCAT scores were 3 years old, you know, so most schools said no. Like, your scores are too old, you got to take the MCAT again. And it's like, strangely enough, it was a good school. I mean, UCSD Medical School is a highly ranked school. And the only school I got into was UCSD. And that's where I was already living. So I went to medical school there, you know, which for me was a very traumatic experience. And so like the chapter I write about medical school, The Wounded Healer, so I use this, somebody sent me this poem by Rebecca Campbell, I don't know who she is, but it's just this poem. It says, bless the thing that broke you down and cracked you open, because the world needs you open, you know. So it took a long time for me to get to a place where I was grateful to medical school for breaking me down. You know, I was very angry for a long time. And even the first version of this chapter about it, somebody was like, Joe, it's like, you sound so angry. You're like, you're not over it. and it's polarizing. The book's about healing, you know. Like, I think you still need to work through this, you know, after everything. And so, you know, that was the thing. In UCSD, there's a lot of wonderful people at UCSD, and I'm happy and I'm glad I went to UCSD and I became a medical doctor and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, there was some tough times there, and I just to read a couple quotes. A 2016 study estimated that almost 1/3 of U.S. medical students are depressed. I was one of those depressed students. As I look back on that period, I remember what Ricardo the Shaman says about depression. He believes that most depression is caused by anger. I was angry in medical school, angry about entering a medical culture that didn't seem to care enough about us, the future of medicine. Rather than feeling supported, I think many of us were afraid. Exposing a problem was a threat to your professional future. I remember reviewing a dip in my academic performance with the administration. I had failed a class during my second year. Maybe you should tell me what happened. Unless you can make us understand what was going on, I'm going to have to let the residencies know about your depressive tendencies. We'll have to put something in your file. The woman said to me behind closed doors. I didn't care to share anything about myself with her. Maybe I was too proud, but I didn't feel genuine concern in her tone. I think you should put down whatever you feel is right, I replied. I was angry about having to tolerate disrespectful behavior from those who would take advantage of this culture of fear. Perhaps it was just a few bad apples, but I was tired of professors and teachers interested in publicly and privately humiliating us. People who, in my opinion, looked frustrated and unhappy themselves. My father and his friends loved their work, but maybe the culture of medicine was changing, or maybe I was getting to know a less satisfied group of doctors. In 2015, Medscape Physician Lifestyle reported that 46% of U.S. medical doctors report burnout, up from 40% in 2013. I was angry about not knowing if all the hard work was worth it. In my frustration, I turned this anger on myself. Inside my mind, I became hypercritical and increasingly insecure. I was trapped in my thoughts, losing touch with the world around me. I felt ashamed for feeling so lost, and I didn't know what to do. So I went to the Student Health Center and complained about my breathing, and as you recall, as I talked about earlier in the intro, was diagnosed with medical school syndrome. So, you know, that's the thing, you know, there's a little skip down just for a moment, just since we're stuck here with me. My favorite thing to do, read my own book. Why, for some, is training to become a doctor so depressing? Why does work as a doctor lead to so much burnout? Well, I think it's because our materialist culture has created a system that is too hard on us, too hard on our hearts. Our culture and our healthcare system are increasingly managed by corporate values. We are losing touch with human values. In our current healthcare system, too often, material gain takes priority over the health and happiness of both patients and practitioners. We are too busy to make time for how we feel. A culture that denies its natural empathy is dehumanized. The mind cannot deny the heart, not for long. The body cannot sustain this. This denial breaks the body down. Humans cannot deny their humanity, not for long. And so then I go on, you know, to talk about just like Chinese medicine that I had been exposed to, but eventually I got involved in you know, ayahuasca healing, traditional Amazonian plant medicine, and the book is about my journey from being depressed, trying antidepressants, and from a dad that's a psychiatrist, and getting some response from that, feeling better, having an easier time with myself, with life, but only taking it for a little while because I didn't really want to be on antidepressants. You know, I wasn't excited about that. And so while I was at UCSD in my third year, I had the opportunity to go back to Arizona where I'm from and enter peyote ceremony, you know. And that peyote ceremony really turned things around for me. I mean, I stopped antidepressants and all that stuff. And so, you know, I talk about that. And I talk about the peyote ceremony and the way it changed things inside me. You know, I'll just give a touch of that since we're in the San Diego version. It was like we went through this big peak, you know. I went with a friend of mine. We did Spirit Walk at the Peyote Way Church of God. Okay, it's out there. That's my thing. It's like, this is not Carlos Castaneda. Like, these are real people And I was just talking to him, Paul Mills, he's in the book, he's a professor at UCSD here still. He's NIH funded, like out the wazoo, he's the real deal. And he was my professor. I did peyote, I got turned on to like, wow, this spiritual plant medicine, oh my God, why isn't anyone talking about this? Why isn't anyone like telling me about this? And I'm in medical school and I'm not finding out that like this thing that just changed me, in one night brought me more healing than anything that I had come across. And I was talking to people and I was trying to get help and I was trying to find out what's wrong with me and asking people to help me. And, after this wild experience that I had out there with peyote, a little later we sat down on a gravelly hill. By then the effect had calmed and for the most part my vision had cleared. Overall I was feeling great, peaceful and overjoyed. One of the church's cats, a tabby, just wandered over to us, brushed past us, and then wandered off. I just sat there feeling immense gratitude. My mind was quiet, no internal dialogue, none. I was not criticizing myself, I didn't feel insecure. My consciousness was filled by my senses and a sense of just being. Instead of being preoccupied trying to figure out who I was simply being myself, without commentary. In that state, with my mind so calm and quiet, I could finally feel compassion for myself. I realized that in general my life was moving in a positive direction. I felt connected to my heart and to the universe, my mind wide open, and I found hope. Faith was not just an abstract concept, but a tangible connection to a larger universe, the feeling of participating in all that is. Then my thoughts were directed toward the ways I had hurt others in my reckless suffering, a girlfriend whose feelings I did not consider, things that I could have done better. The peyote had opened a space for me to contemplate without judgment and make plans to improve my behavior, etc. So that was peyote. And then my family's from Colombia. And so then I started going to more peyote ceremonies. And I went back there and I got invited to a different kind of peyote ceremony, Native American church ceremony. And I met shamans for the first time. I work in ceremony, peyote shamans, and this guy was treating me like somehow I was like part of the deal. Starts talking to me in Spanish. I never met him before. He starts talking to me in Spanish. Go get me some water. Go do this. Go do that. In the morning, like, go help this girl. You got to help this girl. And so I felt like this familiarity with this world, that was just kind of strange to me, but kind of familiar. Kind of felt like right, So then I was really kind of interested and curious about that, And my family's from Colombia, and so I knew about ayahuasca. In Colombia they call it yahe, yahe. And I knew about that, and I was curious about that. And so, I thought maybe one day I'm going to go find out about that. Around that time, we went, this is not in the book, backstory. We were here at UCSD, there was a lady, an Apache shaman that was guest lecturing in medical anthropology. She gave this lecture and we met her and she invited us to go to Sweat Lodge with her, and we went to Sweat Lodge with her, and that was helpful to me. And then she also invited me to go out to get counsel from her and her partner. And I went out there, and at the time, when she was done talking to me, she gave me a book, she gave me a book. She's like, she heard I was into peyote, and she was kind of like, trying to tell me, well, watch out with that. And then she gave me a book. She said, Joe, this is for you, this book. And it was The Cosmic Serpent by Jeremy Narby. So Cosmic Serpent by Jeremy Narby, and I was really into that book. I don't know, has anyone read that book? Some few people. It's a cool book, it's a significant book in the ayahuasca literature. And it really got my attention, and I was really interested. And he talks about, I want to meet scientists and I want to meet doctors who are interested in this kind of medicine. I want to talk to them because ayahuasca told me some things about how this works and DNA and stuff like that. And so then I had a friend from medical school who's also in the book here. It's called Barak in the book, and he was in Switzerland doing research in Zurich with psilocybin. He was there, and he was really happy and having a great time over there. Everything was great. And I told him about this peyote ceremony. He's like, Joe, oh my God, you have to come. There's the LSD symposium It's the 100th birthday of Albert Hoffman, the man who discovered LSD. It's happening, and it's in Switzerland, and you've got to be there. It's like, you have to come. It's like, I got an extra ticket, and you can just come. And Jeremy Narby's going to be there, you know. And I know you want to meet Jeremy Narby. Like, and I actually know him. He's my friend. And I'll introduce you to Jeremy Narby. So I was like, oh, But I was kind of broke at the time. I don't know. I think I was at the... by that point, I was... I don't know when. I was 2005. I was in residency, I think. So then after medical school, after peyote, I went back to Arizona, did a year of internship, and then I went to UCLA, family medicine residency, and I was going to do peyote and doing that stuff. Then I was trying to figure out what to do. I started working as a normal doctor at Kaiser, doing urgent care and primary care at Kaiser. So working as a doctor, you know, real doctor. And then came back down here because Paul Mills, you know, my friend told me, you should do academia, Joe. You're kind of academic. Why don't you try to get this NIH grant? You might have a chance, and go talk to Paul. And I went and talked to Paul Mills. He's a researcher here in kind of what we would call in the Department of Psychiatry, what you might call mind-body research, what's also called psychoneuroimmunology, the connection between the brain and the psychology to the nervous system, to the immune system, and also psychoneuroendocrine immunology, which is just adding the hormonal system, the endocrine system to that network. Because they're studying that in this mind-body research, studying things like how does stress affect your immune function? Why do some people get sick more often, you know, when they're stressed out? Turns out there's a lot of research now. How does stress cause high blood pressure? How does stress cause people to be, how does inflammation lead to depression? How does depression lead to inflammation? And all these kind of thoughts and feelings, it's very like intensely researched area. There's like the psychosomatic medicine and the psychoneuroimmunology and the thing. But they didn't teach us about that in medical school. You know, I didn't really hear a lot about that when I was in medical school. It was kind of just, I guess, an earlier stage of development. But by that point, mind-body medicine and what's in behavioral medicine, Department of Psychiatry at UCSD was pretty advanced. You know, and I learned a lot spending time with Paul and spending a couple of years there doing academic research and writing papers and trying to publish papers and learning about scientific rigor, stuff like that. And during the time, Paul, I don't know when exactly it fit in, I think right before that, I don't know when, Ryle was trying to get me to go to Zurich, you know, to meet Jeremy Narby. And I go, and I found a way to get over there, and I get there, and it's this crazy experience. The LSD symposium was crazy. And a lot of things happened, and a lot of weird things happened. And eventually, at some breakfast, like after I stayed up all night long and didn't sleep and came out from the snow, Rahel, who ditched me like hours earlier, and I didn't have a room. I was actually staying in Rick Doblin's room on Friday night. That was the first time I met Rick Doblin, because we lost our hotel room, and then he let us sleep like on the floor. And then the next night, he's like, you gotta get your own room, man. I didn't have any money, so I just stayed up all night. And it was pretty pathetic. And I showed up to the breakfast, and I lost my ID. And I didn't even have one, because Ryle gave me one that wasn't mine, and they took it back. And I went to like, these Swiss people are pretty, you know, they're a little cold. And I walk up to the breakfast line, and I'm like, I don't have my pass. And she was just like, just go. So I went through the thing, and then Alex Gray was there with his wife, and so I pretended like I was friends with them and just sat next to them. Just felt the energy after a lonely, trippy night. And then Rael shows up out of nowhere. He's like, hey, Joe, where have you been? I've been looking for you. I'm like, you weren't looking for me, Rael. You know, now you say you didn't look for me. He's like, well, whatever, who cares? He's like, Jeremy Narby's right there. He's like, come on, I'll introduce you to him. And I go over and talk to Jeremy Narby, and I had tried to talk to him, but he's swamped. Everyone's trying to talk to him at the conference. You're like, you just feel bad. And I tell him, hey, you know, I want to talk to you, and he's just like telling me, like, I'm having my breakfast, you know, come on. And I was like, this is my moment, you know, this is like, I came all this way, I endured all these things, and now he's blowing me off. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go down like that. You know? So I was like, hey man, you know, I read your book, and you say you want to talk to doctors and scientists that are into this medicine, you know. I was like, I'm a doctor, you know, I'm pretty serious about this. Oh, you're a doctor. Oh, sit down. You know, let's have a So we sat down and we talked. You know, and Jeremy Narby, you know, we became friends a little bit. Or he was into the research I was doing on light medicine, on low intensity light therapy at UCSD, and he wanted to hear more about that, and I wanted to hear more about the Amazon. And so, thanks to that weird little path, you know, Jeremy Narby was the one to tell me where to go to drink ayahuasca when it came time to drink ayahuasca. So he told me to go to this one place, you know. And that's where I met Ricardo Amaringo, the shaman that I work with. And he's the one that sang the first song to me, you know, was Ricardo. So that's just a little example of like a strange trail that it was involved. And so then I had my experience there. I had a very big experience there with ayahuasca, and then eventually I started bringing groups, you know. And I brought a group down in 2009 when I was working at the lab. I was doing research at UCSD. Paul was letting me go. Paul was like, you know, you have vacation time. And I was like, Paul, and it was just 2 weeks. So I was working at UCSD, and I was going down to drink ayahuasca. You know, and a lot of big things happened to me when I was down there, and I'd come back and I'd tell Paul about it, and I'm like, man, this is really something, you know, what's going on down there? It's like, whoa. And he was kind of interested and curious, and, you know, I had some big visions, some very strange things. I learned some things about my family that I did not know prior to visions, you know, very interesting, curious things. And connections of my family to like certain famous ethnobotanists that I didn't know, and my own grandfather's like friendship with that person that I didn't know. My grandfather passed away when I was a little boy. And I describe that in the book, chapter 6, if you're interested, $13.99. But a lot of things happened, and Paul was very impressed, you know, and I brought one of the shamans here to San Diego, and he hung out with Paul, and we had a very interesting conversation to where we decided to do a little conference in Bogota, in Colombia. My aunt organized it in Colombia, and the shaman came over from Peru, and Paul came down, and we talked about psychoneuroimmunology and psychoneuroendocrine immunology. We did it in front of the shaman and showed him the slides, and he said, that's what we're doing. He's like, that's how it is. Like that's the level that I'm interacting with the shamanism. He's like, this is it. And so I was like, and that was kind of interesting. And so then eventually I kept going down and kind of getting lost and not knowing what to do and trying to figure out what was my next move. And then eventually kind of getting offered by Ricardo the opportunity to maybe, do I want to start a center myself with him and with Svita and a business partner? Do we want to start our own healing center? You know, do I want to go and get deep with this shamanism and live in Peru or be part of a center that I'm part-time in Peru? And I was really thinking about that, and somewhere in that time period, you know, my dad passed away, and I had to move back to Arizona to go help my mom and kind of walk away from a semi-floundering research career, you know, where it was not really. I was like, Paul, maybe I could come like 2 weeks, go help my mom out, come back 2 weeks, you know, and could I still get the funding? I was like, it's over, Joe. You know, it's time to move on. It's not research for you, man. You know, that's not. I think it's enough now. And so I left, and I just started working over there and being a doctor in Arizona and doing part-time work, and started, you know, going down to Peru more. And then started a center. We started a center, and then started coming back here, work as a doctor, get money, send it down there, you know, build the ayahuasca healing center with the help of other people. Svita is doing the same thing, bringing her money. And we built a healing center, and then two things happened, you know. I got to watch as a doctor up close and personal what happens to people with these particular techniques that we're using, living with them, you know, all day. Some people have been Niwe Rao, you know, and it's like living with them, being with them, you know, all night, morning, whatever, eat together, live together, and go through the process and go through the ceremony and live the life. And so I would do it for several months, come back, work as a doctor, get money, go back. And then eventually, centers started doing better, you know. You wouldn't have to work so much as a doctor, and you could go deeper. And Ricardo the shaman wanted me to train. He's like, you guys have to train with me, you know. You're going to be at my side. You have to learn this thing. And I wanted to kind of. I was embarrassed, you know, to be like so drawn in by a substance-related spiritual practice. You know, my mom, well, why can't you just learn it? You know, the songs and everything. Why do you have to drink that stuff? You know, and with it, and I'm a doctor, you know, and just telling everybody, yeah, I'm drinking ayahuasca. You know, like not just once in a while. Like I'm drinking more than most people. You know, and so that was like a transition. And somebody said to me, and she's like, well, you know, I get where you're coming from, Joe, but if it resonates with your heart, what are you supposed to do about that? You know, what are you supposed to do about that in your life when you find something that resonates with your heart and it just works, you know? And so I was kind of on the fence and eventually kind of transitioned to training, you know, in the shamanism and learning the traditional way and going in and starting to work and helping the ceremonies and learning to become a shaman, you know, to be ayahuasquero, to take responsibility for the ceremony and handle it, you know, and be one of the people there that's, you know, whatever, trying to hold the place down. And so that all kind of happened. And I describe a lot of that process, you know, but in that journey, I saw these cases, you know, as a doctor. And I wanted to like make some notes and do some interviews and find out, you know, how did we have success with a PTSD vet, you know, Vietnam era, 40 years, 50 years with PTSD. You know, this is like Vietnam. So he's been to therapy, he's been to the psychiatrist, he's been on medication, he's done all that stuff, you know, it's been 4 decades. And he had a huge breakthrough with us, huge breakthrough. His whole life is improved, all of his health improved. You know, first treatment, 10 days. 10 days. Intense, but 10 days. He then kind of followed up, plugged in. He had a lot of integration support from the VA, from therapy, stuff he wasn't open to before. Now he's open to it, and he went into all that. And then, you know, the next case, and I start presenting is, you know, somebody with a chronic cough. She's had this weird cough for years. It's not going away. Dry cough, can't get rid of it. Saw the pulmonologist, saw this, saw that. Somebody tells her, you know what? That's a spiritual wound. You're going to need to see like a spiritual healer to get rid of that. And somehow she, well, you know, the reason she came was actually because she was doing this. She's part of a medical brigade that does cleft palate surgeries for the poor kids, you know, in Peru. And one of her colleagues from that organization, Smile, wanted to drink ayahuasca, was in Peru, came and drank ayahuasca with us, and in the ceremony, she saw that woman sitting next to her in the ceremony. That's why that lady came, you know. So I saw you clear as day, like sitting next to me. And then she said somebody else told her about the spiritual wound, you gotta find a spiritual healer, and then she sees her like that. So she came, you know. And turns out, like, she actually just had, and you know, I talk about cases that we treated over a 6-month period. One night, you know, 10 days, several repeat treatments, people relapsing after they, you know, the truth, like, you know, following them out for 3 years, 4 years. You know, not just like, oh, it's all flowers, like, you know, the hard parts, the people that shouldn't be doing it, you know, all the difficulties. But her case, for example, was, you know, this huge release. You know, I describe it, but it's just, she had one night, and so I told the shamans, I'm like, hey, we only have this lady one night, you know, that's all we have with her, but she's doing this for these kids, you know, like, this is what she does. She helps these poor kids here, you know, we gotta help her, we gotta do something. And I brought her to this lady Olivia, you know, who's kind of a well-known shaman over there, and, you know, it was just one of these experiences, and I want to open up to questions and discussion. But, you know, people are always talking about, at the MAPS conference, we were just at the Psychedelic Science Conference, and this kind of discussion, like I said, the muggles discussion of like, is it just the ayahuasca, it doesn't make a difference, shamanism is not real. You know, you just drink it, the rest is just for show. You know, like that's all it is. And there's a lot of people that like to think that way, and it's fine, and I encourage them to think that way, and I would never ask them to be convinced of anything, you know, until they experience it themselves. But this woman went in, you know, with some faith, but skeptical. And she said, you know, I'd give her some ayahuasca, go check on her, how you doing, you know, you feel anything? Not really, you know. So come on, let's do a little bit more. Let's do a little bit more. Go, she does a little bit more. And I go over to her and I say to her, you know, I don't know, just a moment where I just said, okay, I'm going to bring her to Olivia. So I go to get her, to bring her to Olivia. That's my little job as an apprentice. Wander around in the dark and help people out. And so I tell her, hey, I want to take you over to Olivia. You know, how do you feel? I feel a little altered, you know, like nothing major. It was okay. So she stands up and she's like, whoa. I'm like, okay, she's higher than she thinks she is. She can't walk, you know. So I walk her over, I sit her down in front of Olivia, and she sits in front of Olivia, and Olivia just stares at her in the dark. And like we say, like in the ayahuasca visions. So I try to describe some of the tradition, you know, like it's a book about science, but it's also a book about the tradition. She's staring at her in the dark, and we had already talked about how when I brought her in the morning, I talked to Olivia, hey Olivia, this is this lady, you know, she's got this cough. And when you talk to the lady, she says, you know what, they've done all the x-rays and the CAT scan and everything else, but I don't feel the cough in my lungs. It's not coming from my lungs. I feel it's coming from here, from like solar plexus, you know, or chakra, you know, you could say. And if we were, you know, if we were open to talking about different ways of looking at things, you know, we'd say, yeah, that's her third chakra. And so then the shaman said, oh yeah, well that's because her problem is there. She said her problem, that's why she feels it there. Her problem is there. She's got all this grief and shame locked up in there, and we need to get that out. We need to dig that out, and in ceremony we'll do it tonight, don't worry. You know? So like, oh, okay. So she's staring at her, and I, you know, before she does, I bring her, I'm like, hey, Olivia, this is that lady. This is the lady I brought you today. Remember? She has all that. We say pena in Spanish, like grief, shame. Pena, ahí, you know. She's like, oh yeah. So okay, sit there. Then she opens up her song, you know, her icaros, these mystical songs, the icaros, like from the plants, the ideas that you train, and I went through this training and I didn't believe it. And again, I wouldn't ask anyone to believe it, but I learned to sing icaros that way. Long diets, like restricted lifestyle, dietary restrictions, taking the plants, non-psychoactive plants that are, I'm being told, are going to teach me how to sing like this. And they're going to teach me how to sing in a way that's going to shift energies in another person, you know. And so Olivia's famous for her icaros. She starts singing, you know, just doing her thing, very magical. You just sit down, just watching, you know, what happens. About like maybe 30 seconds into it, she bursts into tears. She's just weeping in front of the lady. She's just weeping in front of the woman, crying her eyes out, crying her out in the cough, you know, and the cough, and I cough with the tears, and then she's throwing up, you know, now she's like, and the cough is coming, and she's just going, and it's like, you know, 15 minutes, whatever it is, who knows how long it is, and it's just really like, whoa, you know, a lot of movement, a lot of catharsis, a lot of vomiting, and crying, intense. And then I, you know, it's done, and I pick her up to bring her back. How are you doing? You know, she's like, that was incredible. You know, it's like she was inside of me, I was inside of her. There was like she was a bluebird perched on my heart, singing to my heart. And like these orange and red rocks were just coming out of me. You know, and then after that, her visions opened up, and ayahuasca showed her all this. Her ancestors, how much they loved her, how much she needs to learn how to love herself, even though her parents weren't able to be there for her the way she needed. But her ancestors do love her all that way. And it was okay for her not to be second best anymore with her husband that was cheating on her. And that she didn't know he was cheating on her, but it turns out he was cheating on her a lot. So she was kind of blind to this thing. There was some kind of blinded thing going on. And all that stuff's coming out, and then it shows her what's wrong with your husband, that why he has this sexual problem, why he's out of control. And, you know, she's going to divorce him anyways, but just to understand and be able to forgive. And then she starts a process that went on for years. And little by little, you know, her cough kept getting better and better and better and went away. And then other cases, migraine headaches and Crohn's disease and depression and anxiety and psoriasis. And so then I was like trying to come up with theories, how do I think this works as a doctor? And that's what I presented at MAPS, was just like, what's the physiology that links problems like migraine headache and Crohn's disease and chronic cough and PTSD? Like, those are 4 things that for a doctor are so different. Medical doctors like, oh, the neurologist, gastroenterologist, psychiatrist, pulmonologist, just like, that's what, I mean, that would do that as a family practice doctor, for sure. I just prefer, they get all the tests, oh, no, your lungs are fine, everything's fine. They go back, but what do I do? I still have this cough. And what do I do? It's not getting any better, and the meds. And then you realize that these 4 problems, like, they all got better with the same kind of approach. Different plants, but the same basic approach and the same kind of ayahuasca shamanism. And then you realize what was linking these 4 problems, and what's linking the physiology of these 4 bodies is emotional trauma. Emotional trauma was causing all those symptoms. And when you heal that emotional trauma, their symptoms went away. Physical symptoms, the people. And so then trying to spell out the physiology of how that is from my time at the Paul Mills lab, applying psychoneuroimmunology and the psychoneuroendocrine network and saying, you know what, that is the emotional body. That's the emotional body that Chinese medicine has been talking about and Ayurvedic medicine has been talking about, that doctors are afraid to talk about. That there is a physical apparatus, that your emotions are in fact physically experienced. And so there is a very physical nature to them. And there's an energetic experience of those emotions. That you'd have to be like basically just a liar to not say that you feel energy in your emotions. And you feel energy from other people's emotions. And that it affects you in a way that we have to talk about in terms of energetic dynamics. But there's also biochemistry connected to that. So this is a book that, as I say, is about the intersection between biology, emotion, and spirituality. So that's what my book is about. And so, I don't know, I just want to open it up to questions, see if people have any questions or anything else you want to talk about. Yeah.
What's next for you?
What's next for me is, I don't really know, I think, is the thing. There's a few things, like, I want to do more shamanism, so I'm like pursuing legal protection for that, through the church protection. So that's one thing. I'm going to do more shamanism and try to help people that way. And, through the training, I've been able to help people like in weird ways, mystical ways, and made an impact on their emotional well-being and their mental health and their physical health. And so I want to do that more. So that's one thing. So I'll bring groups. I'm still bringing groups anyway around. I sold my shares, so I'm not responsible. I can't be responsible for there when I'm not there. It's too much for me as a doctor. And so I still bring groups down there and I consult for them. So I can do that. I can do shamanism that way. Go down to Peru. But yeah, I want to do it here and wherever I think I can be helpful. So I want to do it legally. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is doing like maybe counseling work with people, psycho-spiritual counseling, people who are coming back from there and stuff like that, and some consulting. And then whatever other weird jobs come my way. Now all of a sudden these weird jobs are on him. They want me to like help as a shamanic consultant at this other center, help them like talk to their shamans and find out what's going on with their shamans. Somebody else is gonna like go to some YouTube show with these researchers and they want a translator, so maybe I'll go. So I'm just trying to sell the book right now. So I'm not sure. Yeah.
How often do you bring groups?
Now, so that's one thing. We're taking groups in October. That's the next time. They're going to do 2 or 3 groups with Martina Drossel, who's a good friend of mine, who worked at the center, who's also like a very advanced shaman and somatic healing practitioner, like the Peter Levine somatic stuff, and which is a really nice combination of treatment to help people out of trauma and emotional stuff. And so in October we're going to do 2 groups and maybe a 3rd. So everybody, she's like, tell them, advertise about the groups. If you guys want to come. Say I mean, you can go whenever you want, but I think go with us. It's more fun. Yeah.
So what are your tips and like recommendations for like reintegrating like after ceremony
Right.
and doing that deep spiritual work.
Right. Yeah, so that's the thing, that's the big like topic, you know, here stateside. Like I said, you know, I was down there, and so, you know, we're sending them home. You know, we don't know, and I didn't know, and that's part of why I wanted to like take a break from there, is to be able to write and follow these people and see what's going on, you know. It's like they leave, they're really happy, they think they're fixed, you know, and some of them stay better and some of them fade. So what's the answer, you know, how do you get it to stick, and how do you make the most of it, and what's integration about? And so there's a lot of people that are developing that, are researching that, are looking into that. So I, you know, when people ask me, I can just say, well, I just know people, what they've done, and the ones that have done well. And I think that the ones that have done well, like first of all, they have some kind of support, just personal, emotional, social, open-minded, non-judgmental support. If that's through a professional, you know, that could be a professional therapist. That could be a spiritual community. That could be a loving family. That could be a lot of different things. It could be AA for some people. And so they need to get plugged into something, like isolating yourself afterwards. I don't think is a good idea. Then spiritual practice, you know, people that turn to spiritual practice to try to find ways to get closer to that kind of more transcendental, whatever, you know, elevated state of mind and consciousness. So some people are meditating or praying or other spiritual practice that they do. And then, you know, time in nature also, from like what the kind of healing that they receive from nature. So spending time in nature to reconnect and reintegrate that way. So I think those are the basics. You know, so the people that did well, they had something like that. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask your opinion and all of your opinions, piggybacking on your great question. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I've been working with dreams, with my own dreams mainly, and clients who are interested for years. I'm not an expert, but I'm a curious explorer. And I've done Aya ceremony in various countries and places. And I went to the MAPS workshop on integration. And at the workshop, I was thinking, at the Psychedelic Sciences Conference we just had in April, and I was thinking, gosh, as Western psychologists and in the healing arts and the psychological field, we were like these babies crawling awkwardly trying to figure out how to integrate, kind of like it's a really nascent thing for this culture. But then I had an aha that, you know, dream work is a beautiful way to practice integrating, you know, when our ego control dissolves and we have all this kind of magical realism to work with and try to understand how can we weave that into our ordinary consciousness in a way that evolves our consciousness. And so I just thought, and I know in the Aya dreams are very important, because that's my understanding.
That's right.
And so I thought, you know, we're going to Peru and we're slithering around in the mud and having these amazing opening experiences, but we also can have those every night when we surrender into our dream world. And then to work with dreams in our waking world is a great way to practice integration. I mean, that's, like, I just had that realization this week.
No,
so
that's beautiful.
What's your take
That's
on
beautiful. Well, and so it's like, you know, what you want in your integration is something that's open to the spiritual.
that? Yeah.
You know, and so in other words, you did ayahuasca, but now you're going to maybe you do work with a life coach that went through a healing that had a spiritual element, and so they understand a little bit about what that's like, you know, to go through that and to heal that and integrate that. So you need somebody who's like, you know, open-minded enough to that kind of experience, and that's this thing that we always bring up, that always comes up, is like this mystical side of things that seems to, like, you know, our culture has a very arbitrary barrier as to this is mystical, that's not mystical.
Yeah.
You know, I can talk to you right now, which apparently is a miracle, you know, that these molecules are doing whatever they do, and we don't even know how I think or how I even, you know, it's like there's a lot of mystery that's taken for granted. You know, pretending like, oh, that's not mysterious, you know. But then if you're like, oh, I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to hear about energy moving in the body. Dreams, that's nothing. That's just your brain taking a dump. That's what and my thing to those people, you know, there's people that they like to get into their, like, frame of mind, their talk, like it's very comfortable for them, you know, their belief system. It's like a nice happy little place there. But their argument is as flimsy as the other person's argument. But they like to talk a big talk. Everybody needs to listen to me because I wrote this book and I have these papers over here. And I think that's just your brain taking a dump, and that's what it is. And it's like, but I could say, I think my dreams are like definitely connected to my emotional experience in life. And even like there's moments when they enter into some mystical like realms beyond what my mind can comprehend. And say, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. You know, that's the extent of the argument. That's the big like brains working right there. That's as far as they took it. I'm right and you're wrong. So that's that, you know what I mean? So I'm talking all that talk because I'm a doctor and I have to deal with this kind of thinking. So now if we just entertain like dreams, now let's talk about dreams. And in the ayahuasca world, in the Shipibo world, like dreams, yeah, it's very significant. You know, I don't know if you saw Embrace of the Serpent, but that movie is all about these Westerners who have forgotten how to dream. They can't even dream anymore. And they're going to the shamans to try to learn how to dream again. And like, what does dreaming tell us about our state of mind and our health, our emotional health, and just our mental health, our well-being, our function? So a lot of times people are blocked from their dreams. They can't remember their dreams. And then we see, like with ayahuasca treatment, it's traditionally described by the shamans that a lot of times, once their visions start opening up, because a lot of people block to the visions, their dreams start opening up. So they're saying that it's the same, it's linked, those worlds.
Yeah.
The worlds of the visions from ayahuasca and from the plant medicines and the mystical realms that open up, and your dreams.
And that's the way we can work with it. Dreams are not illegal yet.
Right.
They're not scheduled yet.
So I think dreams are definitely like
Yeah.
connected to these realms, to the mystical realms, and like they allow for a couple different things. Like you said, your mind is less restrictive. You know, you're not blocking. And so like a lot of emotional content can come forward. And then maybe it comes forward through these archetypal, metaphysical, whatever, metaphorical experiences, but you can work with it, you know, and you can work with it with your imagination in the dream and in waking life, which is
Many
what...
cultures do use dream work as a spiritual practice.
Exactly.
If anyone, I'm not just harping on dreams, I love all sorts of
No,
explorations.
I think most indigenous cultures do.
Mm-hmm. And there are some dream groups locally, so if you're interested, you can talk to me later.
I think that's a very powerful thing.
Just
So
one
I
of
think
many
that's a
ways
long
to practice it.
story responding to you, but I think it's totally linked to shamanic work, dream work, and I think that is a very powerful way to approach emotional health and
The
spiritual health.
non-ordinary state of consciousness.
Non-ordinary state of consciousness, and the reason that I I harp on in the book like emotional health, because it's like I think that's the way to come across. You know what I mean? In other words, somebody's uncomfortable, oh, dreams up to woo-woo and all that. It's like, well, I'm talking about non-ordinary states of consciousness, fine, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because that can bring emotional healing into your life. And that's very real to a lot of people. And that's actually the whole, that's one of its greatest values. And so I think it is, that's my big thing, like trying to bridge the worlds between shamanism, dream world, doctor, biochemistry. It's like emotional life is not considered mystical in our society. And you can talk about it wherever you want. I'll go there and then we'll go with you. Yeah.
In your opinion, what do you think happened to humans that we have people that live in a primitive society or sort of a alternative way, and then we have our culture and the whole Western culture. What do you think happened that they're so divided? I mean, I know an answer that I would think, but
What do you think?
asking your, well, I'm not sure. I think that the dogmatic church came in and destroyed a lot of it, but they're not the only thing.
Right.
And they do have mystery schools. Most church belief systems have mystery schools. But what happened to the culture, in your opinion, that makes it illegal for you to have like a medical practice where you use a certain kind of medicine? I mean, if you're a licensed physician, shouldn't you be able to use any kind of medicine you feel is appropriate?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that question is like corporate interests, you know what I mean? In other words.
So it's all money. So it's
Money
all
is the
comes-
main reason.
It all comes back to who has money and.
That's the main reason the
Control
church was
power.
trying to control people in
Right.
that way, was for financial reasons. You know?
But we don't have any shamanic societies naturally here, except for Native Americans are the only ones in
Well-
our culture that I know of.
I mean, that's like the tradition, but there's a lot of, look, there's dream workers, you know, I mean, there's a lot of forms of that. That are, in other words, people are still born into the society that have that kind of talent, like they are all over the
They're
world.
just kind of
like
ground out.
They're ground out,
They're just kind of like,
yeah.
pushed down.
They're
so
pushed
you
down.
have to hide somewhere. It's not part of the mainstream.
It's not part of the mainstream, and so then my reason for like why, like the argument I'm trying to make, is like because you push that down, because you've been made to feel ashamed of your very own like ancestral roots as an earthling human being, that in fact every one of our ancestors like danced around a fire and
Right.
all of that, like that's us.
Mhm.
And it's not just National Geographic so far away, like, who's that? I don't know what that is. Oh, they're animals, you know, savages. And so all that racism, all that prejudice, all that shame, you know, to make somebody feel better than somebody else. And to make you feel like, you know what, you're not that anymore. And so we cut ourselves off from that. Because like, no, now we're new and improved. And the problem with that new and improved is not that there are some new and improved things that came out of it. And there's a lot of backward stuff in traditional cultures.
Yeah,
that, you know,
yeah,
you don't want
of
to, you know,
course. Yeah.
like everywhere.
Yeah.
Ignorance everywhere.
Like flushing toilets.
Well, for you, the flushing toilet, you know. For somebody else, it's...
That would be important to me.
Yeah, and that's fine. You know? They have them at our school. As Ricardo says, the gringos are very concerned about the toilets. We need to, you know, I went to, he's like, I was in Europe. I saw the way they put the toothbrush, everything. It's like, the bathrooms have to be very nice.
Muy
You see-
pinche.
Yeah, exactly. They like it. So, so the thing is, when you do that, when you cut yourself off from your ancestral ways, your earthling ways, your earth wisdom, when you kill all the Native Americans and you pretend like everything that's been going on here for the last 20,000 years or whatever it is, doesn't matter, because now we're here. You lose so much, you know, and then the problem about what you lose there, the big issue is you lose this connection to some practices that seem to be more effective in dealing with matters of the heart and soul than the microscope, than the laboratory, than the knife, than the pill. Because we've got that full speed ahead, and yet what's going on? Anxiety's out of control, depression's out of control, addiction's out of control, PTSD is out of control. People, their traumas are overwhelming, they cannot adjust. Psychosomatic illness is growing. It's not getting better with all this research, it's getting worse. So we have an epidemic, and then that's what's driving people to go all the way to the Amazon to talk to these, you know, Native Americans, these Indians, to ask for help, to bring them back to techniques that are going to help show them how to heal their heart and soul. And most, in the cases that I'm describing, I mean, now guess what? They're spending a lot less money on their health care after this process.
Yeah, I think so.
So the point is that the problem with cutting yourself off from that is you open the door to neglecting the dimensions, the emotional dimension and spiritual dimension of healthcare. And you did it because you're so proud of yourself, you know, because it's this ego, individualistic moment in scientific history. But the problem is, you just created a spiritual epidemic in your society that's loaded with cultural health problems that your tax system apparently will not be able to pay for. You're not going to be able to, your healthcare system is heading towards collapse because financially, the current approach is not only not effective for those problems, but it's not sustainable. And so that's why we have to not become and abandon this and say, screw that, you know, I'm going to drop out of society and just New Age, and that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know, you know, who my parents are or my grandparents or where I came from, and screw them. I'm going to reinvent everything. I am basically a Native American, all of a sudden, overnight, they proclaim that they're like a Native American. And it's just like, well, I don't know if that's entirely legit. So,
My dog's part wolf.
yeah, all that. But I mean, there's a beautiful part of it, but it's like, okay, so now how do we integrate it? So it's no more about integrating it. Because they want, the shaman wants to drive a, car. He wants to use a computer. He's in a toilet. He doesn't mind.
Yeah.
He doesn't mind the toilet. but then you get the squatter potty thing. Because I'm like, man, I'm trying the toilet, but it's constipating me. So it's about integration. You don't have to be like I said, like this Ken Wilber says stuff like this. If we understand biology, and underneath biology is like chemistry, and underneath that's physics. But we don't have to like forget physics because now we're talking about biology. We integrate our past. We integrate our childhood. We integrate our life. We integrate our bloodline. We integrate ourselves in this world where we live so that we can be whole and use our, reach higher capacity and enjoy better health, ultimately. Like that's the whole point in this discussion. And so that's why it's so important to integrate these things and find ways to integrate it because right now we're suffering so much with these problems. And that's what MAPS is making such a big, it's making a big impact in the world, in the medical world, because why? They're focusing they're not trying to say forget Western medicine, saying look, these are the problems that are not getting fixed, that are getting worse.
It seems like Andrew Weil's been doing this for decades, and he's very popular, and but the world hasn't changed that much.
It has. It's slow.
It's a little too slow for me. I guess I can really. That's a big depression right there because I'm not going to last forever. I would like to see some breakthrough in my lifetime.
Yeah.
The tools are there.
Well, we want to see
for
it.
me maybe, but
Well, and then it becomes about like maybe like then the spiritual perspective is helpful because it's like
and work on my own individual
Exactly.
self. But then there's like how many billion will they have in another 10 years or something?
Well, who knows? Maybe the whole world's going to be destroyed. Who knows?
No, you're absolutely right.
And so then it's like, so
Maybe.
what about me? What am I going to do until I die? And how is that going to make me feel? And who knows, once I die, and maybe I move on to something that's next, and I look back at what was going on here, and maybe I understand. So we don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't know.
Understand what's really going on.
We don't really know what's really
Right.
going on, and so we have to work through ourselves to understand. We want to impact the world. We want to bring change. Andrew Weil, you say? This is what he had to say.
I met him.
Did you?
Yeah, I've been followers for 20 years.
Yeah, no, he did bring a lot of change. You know what I mean? There's an integrative
Yes,
medicine
yeah.
center at UCSD right now. There wasn't when I went to medical school.
Yeah.
If you don't have integrative medicine in your medical school, you don't compete. You're not attractive to the top tier. That's standard now. Andrew Weil was a big part of that. Deepak Chopra was part of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They did make a difference. It's slow, but it is happening. I mean, Donald gives that wrong impression.
Donald Duck.
Yeah.
Our dear president.
I wish
yes.
Donald Duck was our president.
He's only one human, though. It's the people.
Right, that's right. No, well, they're pretty far gone, as it turns out.
They're pretty far.
They're pretty far gone, and that's clear. And the rest of the world sees that real clear.
Yeah, but somehow we don't.
So we don't, but that's what it takes, I guess, to wake up, and that's how so many of us are in our own personal lives as well. Actually, I'm going to go to him because I told him, and then I'm going to go to you. Go ahead.
Well, I'll try to make this quick. So, in talking about emotional energy and how this interacts with our physiology, basically everything is connected, and this also interacts with people too. It interacts with everybody in this room right now. Or emotional energy.
Sure.
Now, I also really appreciate how open you are. You're interested in Chinese medicine, different approaches and stuff. My question is that, do you think there's something special about ayahuasca that can unlock, unchannel, remove this sort of suppression, or is that just sort of one of the ways to go about doing this?
I think ayahuasca is a very special way to do it, and it's only one of the ways. In other words, it's not for everybody, and not everyone's going to want to do it. And it's a pretty intense experience to get. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes it's beautiful and smooth, but quite often it can be difficult. And so I think ayahuasca, deserves a place at the table. It deserves respect. I'm not going to say forget psychotherapy, that's worthless. I'm like, no, that's fine. Bring the skilled therapist to the table, but allow the skilled ayahuasca shamans to the table, because they can make a real difference with people, and we're seeing it every day right now. And so it's just about making room for it and respecting it. It's not about one. It's a diverse world, and that's where we are now. It's about diversity. It's about respecting diversity and making room. And it's a big planet Earth. There's plenty of room for all this stuff. They're just, that's what I'm trying to do. For the book is just try to bring some respect, for this. This is my last line of the book. As ayahuasca and similar spiritual medicine. So not just, the book is like ayahuasca as an example that's trying to lay down some concepts about spiritual healing that would have an implication for dream work and how dream work could shift, physiology. It's just trying to lay down a concept that is like a study based on my experience watching the ayahuasca scene happen. But ultimately it's emotional healing happening through spiritual techniques is what I'm saying. And there's a lot of other ways to approach that. And people find different kinds of healing. But as ayahuasca and similar spiritual medicines find their place among the world's medical and spiritual healing traditions, we should not forget that, really, there is only one medicine, that which helps us to heal. And so it's just that. It's just give it its due. If people are healing with it, give it its due. It doesn't have to be better than anything else that's out there, that kind of talk. To me, that's not interesting, for me to go out and try to tell everybody, this is the best, I have the best. It's as soon as I hear that, I'm not interested. That'd be...
Yeah, because like you said, then it's more about people trying to be right as opposed to effective.
It's they're not effective. If effective is the most important, then don't hear it from me, hear it from the patient. Why should I tell you? That's bullshit. Let them tell you, hey, this is what happened to me. And so that's what's kind of missing in our modern system, because the healer traditionally is not recognized or judged or whatever, graded by their qualifications, their paper. It's by a community. A community identifies a healer. That's the traditional way. In other words, you go to the village, this guy says he's a healer, so that guy's not a healer, that's the healer. And that's how I think the difference is, and we lost that a little bit, because it's all about the paperwork and the degree and this, and so my big talk and telling people, a lot of horrific things, no one can help you. What you have is incurable. Instead of saying things like, we don't know how to help you anymore. We did as much as we can do. And that's all. Hopefully you find something else. Instead of damning people to death with your mouth and charging them for it. What is that? What is that, I get it that people want to be realistic and they want to say, but you don't have to say it like that. And it's too often that, I hear somebody getting talked to like that. And the shamans too, huh?
Like people with terminal cancer?
Well, terminal cancer's fine. You can be realistic, but I'm just saying there's other times when just out of arrogance, somebody will speak in a way that instead of saying, you know what, we don't know how to help you anymore, we helped you as far as we can, maybe there's something else, we don't know. We're still learning, all of us are still learning, and we're still hoping, you can be honest personally, I don't think you're going to get it, If it was my family, I'd be preparing them that maybe they're going to die. But I don't have to tell them like that. In other words, arrogant, and not make room with, humility, make room for something to happen beyond what maybe any of us might imagine. Yeah.
How do you foresee, and what's your opinion on how we integrate these plant medicines back into our Western modern society? I guess, how do we as healers still hold true to the philosophies and the traditions of these plant medicines, yet have to incorporate that into mainstream here?
Yeah, so I don't know, that's an evolving process, and it's a very personal process. you know, because you could, you know, there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of people that talk about like ayahuasca tourism as like spiritual materialism, like they polluted the Amazonian traditions with capitalism, you know, and they're saying that's what happened with the mushrooms in Mexico, and they destroyed the culture, and they don't pray the same way, and they don't have it the same way that they did, and now it's about to happen again. You know, people say that to me a lot, and so then I say, okay, you know, in my case, like I'm working with an indigenous shaman. It's actually his idea. He's a Shipibo. He's like, do you guys want to help me build a center? This is what I want to do. So this is a Shipibo saying, this is what I want to do. So there's a diversity of opinion, like as to what is the right way to handle this medicine. At the World Ayahuasca Conference last September, you know, there was a big opportunity for Amazonian indigenous like traditions in that region, Rio Branco, Brazil, to come on stage for the first time, you know, with full feather headdress and say their piece about what they think about what's going on. And a lot of them are like, this is wrong. These people shouldn't be using this sacred medicine. You know, this is our sacred medicine. It's wrong. But then a couple of them went up and said, and by the way, no women. It's not for women. You know, and so you can see like there's room there, you know, for the diversity of like opinions on this topic. And so it's very hard to necessarily legislate or, you know, standardize that kind of thing. So then I think you have to be true to yourself and be the example that you can be, and that's the most powerful thing you can do with it. So for me, like, I don't care how we did it in Peru. In Peru, anyone can do it. You're allowed to do it, you know. So it doesn't matter. Like, that's not my business. I don't have to worry about that. Let them do it, you know. Let them learn the hard way. What I hope they don't. But it's like we're trying to learn this way that is just ultimately like through our hearts and through experience and through wisdom and through humility, and not trying to say, oh, I know how to do it because I did it for 2 years, and forget, you know, the guy that did it for 50 years, maybe I could learn something from him or her. And so I don't know, we're just on that path. So I can't say. I think that the reality of like what's happening here, it's going to be, you know, the legal movement is through religion right now, but MAPS is starting to do research, and MAPS is a big proponent of like the path to legalization is medicalization. So they're going to do research with freeze-dried ayahuasca and just pills and no singing, you know, because that's the pathway that, you know, if you ask them, they're saying, well, that's how we legalize marijuana. So they're saying it's not so bad. That's their point. And then they said, well, the mushrooms, you know, well, yeah, I guess everybody can do mushrooms now if they want. They're growing it all over the place. But then they took psilocybin out. You know, maybe how does the Native American feel about that? Or now it's out, and now they're using it to help people. You know, and they're running clinical trials. It's hard to say, you know. I think there's things we want to protect, and you choose your battles, and you decide what's sacred for you, and you have your community, and you maybe have to stand up for certain things. You know, but not everyone might see it your way. Yeah, in the back.
Yes, like in your experience in Peru, is there any particular person that has stood out to you as making the most drastic change while they were down there?
Well, one of them is, I have them in the book, and she's like taught me a lot of things, and she gave me a book to read about what she felt like happened to her that really influenced the ideas of this book. So in the book she's called Maria, and she went through a 6-month diet process. So she had, she came down she had tried ayahuasca, she had she's in her early 30s, very angry, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of emotional issues, but still like succeeding with music, succeeding in some other stuff, but really suffering physically, really struggling with her weight, like pretty overweight, and starting to have knee problems and back problems and difficulty like walking around and doing stuff and participating like as a 30-something. And had surgery on her knee twice, had like steroid injections in her back and all kinds of treatments, and a lot of food allergies, tons of food allergies. Then like the mood problems, you know, rage, suicidality, like all that kind of stuff. And so she came down for like you know, this was going to be a month, and then Ricardo said, you need more. Like it's not going to go away in a month, you know. keep dieting, keep taking these plants, and she started having physical stuff like uterine, vaginal discharge, and this of unknown origin. And then she decided to keep dieting. She dieted like another 4 months at home with this this restricted diet of no salt, no sugar, no oily foods, no pork, no red meat, no dairy, no sex, no alcohol, no drugs, and like keep to yourself as much as possible, and take these plants, not ayahuasca, like healing plants, medicinal plants for her uterus, for her body. And then came back, and then that last month, when she came back to do ayahuasca then for a month, she, this sexual abuse from her father came up and had to be worked out and dealt with in ceremony and in life, and just like in dreams and in daily dreams as well, mind visions of sorts, where your mind's eye, and you're in the day, and work through all that stuff. And now she doesn't have any back problems or knee problems, and she lost a lot of weight, and she doesn't have anxiety or depression problems, and she doesn't have food allergies either. So that was a big healing that happened. That's one. Jake?
Yeah, I want to go back to something that was discussed earlier in Les's question about people that don't have visions, and
Right.
what your thoughts are on that.
So people that don't have visions, and there's multiple degrees of that. So the Shipibo shaman would first say that you're kind of blocked. That's their first response to that, in the sense that in a prolonged diet period, and there are people that struggle with visions forever, for months. They're maybe just not that visionary. There's a set of that. It might be a much smaller set than we might think it is with the weekend ceremonies. When you put people through a longer dietary process, a deeper shamanic cleansing, personally I've seen a lot of people's visions open up. Many, a high percentage. And I don't know what Corey, what do you think about what you've observed down in Peru?
Almost everyone's visions open up.
Almost everyone's visions open.
Everyone's.
Not everyone's,
Not everyone's.
but almost, we're talking in the 90% range of the people that come through, that they drank ayahuasca over here and they drank ayahuasca over there, and I did it and I did it and this. And part of it, a common issue is marijuana. Marijuana commonly blocks people's dreams in the same fashion that we were just talking about.
And so does alcohol.
And so does alcohol. And so the clean out period, with ayahuasca, people then they'll do DMT, whatever, they see all this stuff. For whatever reason, with ayahuasca, there's the plant spirit, there's the energies clashing, whatever, however you want to think about it. But that's kind of an interesting example with the dream situation. Because once their dreams start opening up, they're coming off weed for week 1, week 2, and then they start remembering their dreams, and then their visions start opening up. So that's one common thing that you see. And then there's blocks. There's people who are blocked from just whatever, from never going there, from never, it's a process to go there. There's other people who are super visionary. They're just one time they're traveling the universe. There's other people super imaginative. There's other people who project a lot, tell a big story to themselves. There's plenty of that as well on the other side. There's a person that's blocked that doesn't think they can open, that can't open up. There's a person who thinks they opened up, but they're really just seeing a lot of their own stuff. So there's a centering that has to happen in the process. So, but from working the New Way route, to open visions for people, it takes some time. But usually even a week to 10 days, you see a shift in most individuals.
And then is that sort of enduring in their process in the future, or it's a learned skill perhaps?
And then there's the reality of the coming and going into visions. So somebody like me, so many times into it, at the beginning I had a lot of visions, and then going through long periods of blocked visions. And so even now, and then it shifts gears. Now I see more when I sing to people about them, but for myself, I'm it's touch and go. Sometimes I have visions, sometimes I don't. but I don't worry about it so much. But yeah, that is part of the training. You want your visions to open up as a shaman, to be able to see the other person, and for yourself, and to see the room and see energies. So that's all very important. But so I think it's always like, first is opening it up, and then is it going to stay open, and then sometimes you get blocked. And for us, it's like there's energies that can block you. You know, it turns into like this whole series of anger, impatience, frustration, dark energy of some kind, you know, all that stuff can block visions. Yeah.
I've never heard of the whole marijuana thing not, or like closing off dreams. Because I'm very, I would say like more visionary. And
it depends on the person. You know?
Okay, yeah.
It depends, not everybody, but
okay.
if you put it online, like marijuana blocking dreams, you're going to see there's a percentage of people that,
Okay.
that
So
say
I never
that.
heard of that.
Yeah, there's other people, they smoke weed all the way into the things.
Yeah. All day.
Yeah, right.
But even without it, I'm very.
Yeah, so then some people are very visionary, you know, and then the marijuana doesn't conflict in their case, you know,
Yeah.
around that.
Okay.
So, but it is a concept. It's not just me saying it. It's like
Yeah.
people.
No, I just never
yeah.
heard of it, so I didn't.
Yeah. It's out there. It happens to some people. Yeah. You want to go? Go. I pointed to her, and then I'll go to you. Okay?
I'm sorry.
It's all right. Don't worry. All right. Go ahead.
So you said you tried peyote first, which I've heard is more masculine energy, and then the ayahuasca was presented to you. And I don't know if you tried other modalities of psychedelics, but sounds like you're more connected to the ayahuasca. Is there a particular reason you chose that, or do you think that that one has like a specific strength that the others don't?
I would say that, like with ayahuasca, I saw more happening, you know, for myself and with other people. That being said, the other things are very powerful in their own right, you know. So I'm a fan of peyote. I did peyote last year in ceremony, and I got a lot out of it. And so I'm not against that. It's just that ayahuasca was part of this more like larger treatment protocol. In other words, working with people for weeks, you know, and going back in. And that process was like really interesting to me. And then I had more of a personal connection, you know, like more of a direct. Peyote helped me, but ayahuasca is like, talk to me specifically.
You were led to it by that woman who gave you the book.
That's right.
I've heard that with that plant, you're supposed to be invited, right? Like it's your time.
That's a big part of it, you know, that's a big part of it, but then, you know, what does that mean sometimes? Like, so for a lot of people feel called to it, and a lot of people say it calls them to it.
Mm-hmm.
But then, sometimes it's because they saw the Joe Rogan, you know, podcast, and while they were like, whatever, you know, on their way to McDonald's, and so it's kind of, I don't know, I mean, it can be, like we say, yes, mysterious things happen to me like that. Yes, for me, it's very much like that with ayahuasca. And you say like, no le echa mucho misterio. I mean, don't make it too mysterious, because sometimes it's just life too.
Right.
You know, and let it be just life also. But that doesn't take away from the magic, you know. That for me is a very magical thing, and that's why. It just, you know, and that's why.
Can I ask one more question?
Okay, one more, and then we have to get to our friend.
Yes. Have you had the plant from different regions, and has it worked differently?
I've only tried it from Colombia, and from Peru, and from Hawaii. And for me, it's a little different, but it can work, you know. So I think for me, it's more about the people, the connection, like this other mysterious thing you're talking about, finding the right people, the right experience for you. And so I had big experiences with all those opportunities. So I'm not that person who's like, only like this, not like that. You know, I'm kind of like, well, let me meet the people and let me see what it's like. You know?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, last question.
Okay, this is our last question in the back.
I just want to say thank you for coming and saying everything. I really wanted to hear too. But so like I've been experiencing that sort of dream, like lack of dreams, and I was wondering if maybe like switching to more of a CBD base, like if that would help, or like cutting it out completely. Like, what's your preference?
I mean, I couldn't say like this if it's the THC or the CBD.
Okay.
So if you ask me, I would say, yeah, cut it out. But you know,
Yeah.
if you want to, you know, I mean, that would be that. Like, just because that's what I've seen it happen so many times.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's, if you want to check out your dreams and work in that way, you know, and it's like marijuana. You know, it's a powerful medicine. You know, powerful medicine, powerful spiritual teacher for many people. The Shipibos, they don't think you should use it casually, you know, like regularly, casually, because it has these other side effects that start showing themselves. And so then, you know, then you could take a break and explore outside of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. But maybe try the CBD too. I don't know. See
I was just wondering.
Yeah, no, that's a question. That's an interesting question, you know, and probably there's an answer to that that people are going to investigate.
Yeah, I was just curious if it was like more of the THC that affects that. Not that I don't dream anymore, you know, I do, but they're a lot more potent and emotional.
Right.
You know, than they have been a little bit recently. And so yeah, I mean, definitely working on myself. You know, that was before even coming here.
Right.
You know, that's why I was so like, oh my God, I'm saying this. But yeah, I was just curious if you knew.
Yeah. No, I would say maybe, I wouldn't say you could try it all the different ways.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it, right?
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.